called defectors left hanging now as opposition vows to lock them out. So dozens of opposition leaders have since defected from their mother parties, mostly from the opposition, and they're now said to be hanging on a dangerous political cliff. In fact, on this paper, on page 5, we have Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka saying, and I quote, "What I can tell those from Wiper is that they're politically finished because they moved alone." So this was expected. But tell us about this dangerous cliff that these politicians are hanging on.
Well, majority of the people who defected, the reasons they gave would make them very uncomfortable. For one, they said they want to get maendeleo to their constituencies or to their counties. And one wonders, for instance, when you have a governor like Salim Mvurya in Kwale saying he wants to get maendeleo to his people, and yet he is in charge of a county government and he gets a lot of resources. So one wonders what kind of maendeleo he's talking about. And then for the MPs, they claim that they also want to get a lot more resources going to their constituencies. And they know very well that all the budgets are approved in the National Assembly. So it's not as if you join Jubilee, then Jubilee has got another budget somewhere which is going to bring to your constituency. Right. And when you look at the defections from 1963, and when we got back to multi-party politics in 1992, there's a very high chance that up to 90% of the people who defect, number one, will never get an opportunity to go back to the National Assembly or win their elective position. And then number two, there's not much economic activity which will go to their constituencies. In as much as somebody may want to manipulate the budget within the treasury so that they can allocate some funds, but still it doesn't happen. Because if you're seated in Jubilee today, all the MPs today who have defected to your party or your coalition, they are now like a spent force. So if, say, for instance, you're Engineer Reggae, you've gone to Jubilee, then you find the house is not very comfortable for you, then you want to come back to ODM, nobody's going to welcome you. And I think for some of these leaders, especially Wiper and ODM, they may now consider recalling these MPs because they've got a lot of support and that would assist them. Because they're expecting these people who have defected to actually do a letter to the Speaker of the National Assembly or the Senate indicating that they have moved from their political parties would be a tall order. So if really they want to test their muscles, then they may consider recalling all these MPs. Right. But so again, it goes back to the politics of mischief in Kenya. If you're elected on an ODM ticket and you're going to Jubilee, and you believe that Jubilee represents your best interest, then why can't you just do a formal letter, resign, and then go back for a by-election if you're strong enough? And
that's what I wanted to get into. It's been a very dicey situation, but running on a ruling party ticket in an opposition stronghold, how is that going to play out for these politicians?
Well, it's going to be really a very tall order. Like, for instance, if you're using ODM in Luo Nyanza, where Raila Odinga is the tribal king, he's got a lot of hold. If you're moving from ODM to another political party, then that's a political suicide. The only saving grace you may have is you move from ODM and maybe you go to a coalition member, like, say, Ford Kenya or Wiper. But if you totally go, say, you're working with President Kenyatta and his deputy, then that's a suicide note that you just signed right there.
What if they ride on the maendeleo? This is what the Jubilee Party has been running on a lot, where the ruling party will bring development. And this is what people seemingly want. So if they go to, Bondo or wherever on a ruling party ticket and say, yes, I am not, with the opposition, but I'm going to bring you development because I'm working with the ruling party. Is that going to give them any clout from the supporters, residents?
Well, number one, that's a fallacy, because Kenya is a presidential system. So anybody who is elected to the National Assembly or Senate, technically speaking, is actually in government.
Right.
We don't have an opposition in Kenya. And then you've got now 11 months to an election. So even if you are the best brain in the world, you move from ODM and then you go to Jubilee, are you going to the National Assembly and cause a supplementary budget to be done so that you can get resources coming to your constituencies? Right. These MPs, sometimes, their reasoning, you wonder whether actually they've attended any good school or they understand how the parliamentary budget system works. Right. They know for a fact that if you move from one constituency, or rather from one party to another, there's no way you're going to attract special funding so that you can do projects in your constituency. And with the new constitution, Wanjiku is a very sharp man. He knows that the money coming for projects is not coming from President Kenyatta's pocket or the deputy president's pocket. It's coming from the taxes they've paid. So this fallacy of our MP is misleading us, that I'm defecting from one party to another because I want to bring development or because I want to increase your national visibility. I think really it's some nonsense we are supposed to run away from.
Right.
The bottom line is, these people who are defecting are very selfish. they want to increase their probability of being re-elected. And it's simply because, like for instance, Engineer Regge, he's been having running battles with Raila Odinga, and he knows for a fact, even if you had a free and fair nomination in his constituency, he will not be given the ticket, even if he wins the party primary. Raila Odinga will ensure that it goes to a different person. So our politicians should come up in the open and really admit that my defection has got nothing to do with bringing Mandela to your constituency. It's about my stomach economics. And then the big question one may need to ask these MPs, you've been in the National Assembly for about 4 years. Has it occurred to you on the 11th hour that the only time you may get a budget for development projects is when you defect?
Right.
If these MPs were genuine, they would have defected right from the time President Kenyatta was sworn in. Because all of them are just interested in associating themselves with power. And you know, some of them who've been in the National Assembly for 4 years, one would have expected them to understand that we are not in a parliamentary system where you have a government and opposition. And in any event, still, if you have an opposition, that does not give the national government the opportunity to say, because you're in the opposition, we are not going to have development projects in your constituency. Right. So really, it's a fallacy. And now it's up to the political party leaders to activate the recall clauses. All these MPs who defected, recall them back, and occasion a mini-general election, the way Moses Wetangula had indicated.
Right. Okay, all right. And then we will be getting back to that, you know, the recalling them and whether the parties will still be as strong, you know, considering these people already termed as traitors as it is. But let's take a look at page 5 here.